We're here with Jay Baruchel, famous Montrealer and actor for Habs Eyes on the Prize, and we're gonna just do an interview on growing up in Montreal, being a Habs fan, and how that relates to his career, and of course his new soon-to-be blockbuster movie, Goon.
Attaboy, thank you. In
That's
theaters February 24th.
Absolutely. Opening everywhere.
Yeah.
And so you've talked a lot on radio here, and I think you mentioned it on Puck Day as well. You were raised in a hockey family, and how that affected your view of the game now.
Yeah.
You want to just touch on like growing up there and?
Sure. Yeah. I think you know, it's all from my dad. Anything I know about anything remotely sporty is from my father, who yeah, regardless of his size and his proclivity for liquor and drugs, he was quite an athlete, or at least fancied himself one, and just loved sports. And so I was just kind of raised in a house that was covered in Bleu Blanc Rouge. Even in Ontario, we lived in Oshawa, Ontario for 5 years, and I came home one day from baseball practice, I think it was, and Dad was in the process of spray painting my hamper and my dresser and all this stuff, all Habs colors, and he still made me go to school in a Habs jacket and got made fun of mercilessly for it. But the sort of go-to soundtrack of my childhood, aside from all the oldies cassettes and shit, was the sound of the CBC and on in the background, and my dad screaming, and yeah, the fact that I don't play really any sport is always, I think, of great concern to my dad. So, you know, me making at least a movie about sports is at least something I could do for him.
Do you have like a hockey memory that really, your first time that you felt like you were a Habs fan? Yeah,
oh, definitely. Well, like, one of the earliest memories I have is I think it was for my 4th or 5th birthday, my 5th birthday, I think. Yeah. Like, anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the point is that I was incredibly underwhelmed by this gift at the time, because all I wanted was Transformers and G.I. Joes, and when you're 5, anything that's not toys or candy kind of sucks. And this was this big envelope. I still have it. Habs letterheads and Mr. Jonathan Baruchel on it. Signed letter from Gainey, and then signed glossy black and white 8x10s of the entire 86-87 Montreal Canadiens. Not a bad team.
Yeah.
And completely lost on me in the moment. And then, you know, everybody has to go on a process of rebellion and kind of distancing themselves from either the norm or their parents, which are often one and the same. And so I hated playing softball, so that meant I had to write off all sports in my head for a while. And my way of identifying myself against my father was like, no, I'm the writer. I'm the funny kid. I want to watch movies. Movies are my life, you know. But of course, they're not mutually exclusive. And so after I kind of grew up a bit and went out on my own, and also, you know, as my dad passed away, that only made it all more so, is that, like, I'd say for the past decade, a couple more years than that, I've fallen back in love with it of my own volition, my own desire. You know, in the past decade, I think I've probably only missed a small, like, 1/10 maybe of all the Habs games that have happened. You know, there's 82 a year. I probably catch 76 of them, and so it's my tribute to my dad, all this stuff, and it's more than anything, something I really love doing, and I can't believe I ever missed it.
When we were talking earlier off camera, you mentioned that your dad's favorite player was Bob Gainey.
Yeah.
Did that kind of translate as well for you? Did you big Bob Gainey fan as well?
Yeah, huge. I know it's an unpopular belief these days, but I can't help it. I was raised in a cult of the man, and you know, I remember very distinctly the famous cover to the Les Canadiens magazine where Gainey's doing the Clark Kent thing, where he's got the Habs t-shirt on underneath. And that's Gainey to me, and I will sit down and debate point for point any day of the week any of Gainey's moves that he's made over the past, God knows, whatever, 7 years that he's been around involved in things. has it all been perfect? No. He's made plenty of mistakes, but every general manager does. I think Gainey and his philosophy, I think they've gotten a lot more stuff right than they've gotten wrong. I think he gets a bum rap. I think there are very few people who bleed this team as much as he does and care as deeply for this team as much as he does. And more to a point, I think there are very, very, very few people who understand what the Habs are as well as Bob Gainey does.
And Gainey also played a type of hockey that I think you identify with very well, the take no prisoners, tough as nails kind of guy. And I know you're a big fan of Chris Nilan as well.
Indeed.
Do you have any best memories of kind of like that generation?
Yeah.
Habs?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's what we were saying when we were watching the game, that when you watch footage of those guys, it's the Habs in that era are no less skilled than the Habs now, but there wasn't this sort of baggage of being soft and this accepting as a foregone conclusion that we're going to be weaker or smaller or not as tough. That one had nothing to do with the other. And I think when I was a kid, I distinctly remember being in an airport with my dad, and because he was also quite a huge fan of Kordic. That was that was a guy that he loved watching. I got to, I shook Kordic's hand. He was on a payphone at an airport in Toronto, I think, when I was a little kid, probably at Pearson or whatever. And I just know that, like, obviously hockey is a very multifaceted thing. This is why it spurs on such debate, and there's millions of different hockey fans, and there's a million different things in hockey to be a fan of. The stuff and as I said, everything I know about any sport comes from what my father, it's all connected through him, and and sort of the type of hockey he liked playing, and as a result the type of hockey he liked watching was pretty hard-nosed, a very deliberate, specific hockey, and I think that that you can use words like sandpaper and all this grit, all this
the buzzwords,
the TV talk and head words, but like it's just kind of sort of balls and accountability, more than anything.
So you're mentioning your father a lot with in association with your hockey love and this and that. Would you you said that Goon is kind of your dream project where you're finally able to do like the movie that you want to do. You've got the clout. Is Goon a bit of a tribute to your dad?
It's literally a tribute to my dad. There's even a little mention at the end of the flick. He passed away in 2004, so he was gone before this ever got to happen. But I will never get super ethereal or nothing. But at the same time, I'd like to think he's psyched about it and watching. And I tried my best to kind of capture his gist in the movie to a certain extent, without getting too flighty and writery. The movie's an adaptation of a book, a true story, and what we tried to do was take the point of that true story, distilled to its purest form, distilled down to one sentence. What is this book about? What is Doug Smith, the real guy? What is his life and his career about? What is, if there's one statement that life and that career makes, what is it? And then I had to write the thing, and in order to sort of write the opera that needed to be written, I had to repurpose things, and that meant taking Doug's story and filtering it through me, which meant filtering it through my dad. And so one of the very first things I did was, I'm half Jewish. My dad was Jewish, and so Doug Smith, the real guy, isn't. One of the very first things I did was make Doug Glatt, to make the main character, a Jewish guy.
Right.
Because my dad's experience in hockey also was filtered through, first generation immigrant Jewish stuff as well. There's a whole cultural identity aspect to it that I can't disassociate from my knowledge of hockey and hockey fighting, and all that stuff comes part and parcel with what it took for my dad to grow up where he grew up when he grew up.
Right.
So yeah, my dad wasn't nearly as dumb as Sean's character is in our movie, but yeah, no, this is for my dad, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. You focus a lot, at least it seems on the movie, that the tough guys are nice guys as well. You had there was a George LaRock cameo, kind of poking fun at the whole "want to go" thing, and it's not just something that's in the movie. In the NHL, it seems that every tough guy super loved by their team, and they are they have this reputation of being, you know, the violent fighters, but off the ice or even on it when they're not fighting, they're the nicest guys you could ever meet. Could you touch on that? And
indeed, yeah. No, I again, it sort of goes to you know, certain things have nothing to do with each other and aren't mutually exclusive. And in my experience, the guys I've met that played that particular role on their team are by far the most humble guys you'll meet. Humble and polite, and when you think about what they do for a living, it would be hard to be anything but humble, I would assume. And also, I think you know, the main character is not Canadian in our movie, and Doug Smith wasn't Canadian. Doug Smith is an incredibly polite guy, but I'll say this is going to be, I'm generalizing, but I think that's a very, very quintessentially Canadian attribute. You know, politeness and kindness and respectfulness in no way imply weakness and should not be mistaken for such. And I think a lot of people make that mistake and end up, you know, passed out a few teeth less than they had before. You know, like you go into Halifax, and if you are polite, you will never meet nicer people anywhere on earth. You will never meet more shirt off their back strangers anywhere. You go to Halifax looking for a fight, and I guarantee you will find one inside of 5 minutes. and it's again not mutually exclusive. It's just it's you know, these are humble guys. These are warriors. These are guys that beat the shit out of their body for a living because they love their teammates, because they love the game itself, because they love the fans. These are all things that come from the heart more than the mind, I should think.
I'm expecting you're probably going to get quite the amount of NHL goons, or shall we say fighters, who are going to be reaching out to you after the movie comes out in North America to say that it's quite the good portrayal. Because from what I've heard it's been released in the UK already, the reviews seem to be that you've done a very honest job in portraying not only the toughness of what it takes to do that job and the people that are doing it are being nice, but just a very true portrayal of the toll that it can take. And
thanks, man. We tried our best. It was like, you know, we had objectives. We had a triage list of objectives in this movie. We had things that needed to be accomplished and things that they would be gravy if they got accomplished. And you know, the needs are things that if you don't have them, the movie just is irrelevant and doesn't work at all, and there's no point to do it. And one of the things that we needed to get right was we wanted the hockey to be every bit as quick and beautiful and mean and brutal. All the kaleidoscope of emotions and sensations that a hockey game is. We wanted the fighting to have a lot of, well, you know, there's different kinds of fights. Some fights are funny, some fights are really fucked up, and in our movie you feel every single punch the way you should. And the greatest compliment we've been paid so far, we've gotten a lot of love for this movie, especially from the hockey world. There's a lot of people that know and love the game have kind of really gotten behind our movie. For me, the nicest thing so far, and I don't know how anything anyone could ever say would top this, but after the premiere at the Toronto Film Festival, George Laraque was there, and you know, he's kind of a buddy of mine. He's a company I really enjoyed. One of the nicer dudes anybody will ever meet, and he was at the premiere because he's in the movie. And afterwards he texted me saying that it was one of the best hockey movies he'd ever seen. That he saw a lot of himself in Sean's character. That all the details were spot on. He said also there were times when he got shivers, and there were times where he almost started crying. And if George Laraque tells you that, that's I can't help but take that as a testament to the if not always the authenticity, the truth of the movie. You know, because a movie's a movie, so there's going to be some things that are larger than life. But the gist and how shit unfolds and what it feels like and what it is to do this job, I really think we got that, and him saying that kind of just tells me that
you hit the nail on the head.
Pretty huge, right?
Very huge. Now, the main character in the movie is not Canadian, but would you say that it's a pretty quintessentially Canadian movie?
Oh, in every possible way. Yeah, the movie takes place in Canada. Sean's character and my character are the only characters in a movie of 55 speaking roles. We're the only two people that aren't Canadian in it. Oh, there's two Russian guys, but right. It's written by a Canadian, directed by a Canadian, shot in Canada, about Canada. Listen, I want as many people to like and feel connected to our movie as possible. Anybody, if you like our movie, whatever, and people like our movie for different things. Different people find different connections to it. None of them better or worse than the other. A connection is a connection. And so if someone digs our movie, then you're in the posse. That being said, I'd be lying if I said we didn't make the movie for somebody, because when you try to make a movie for everyone, you end up making a movie for no one. So we very deliberately wanted to make a movie for Canadian kids. We gave them the movie that we think they'd been waiting for. You know, your average Canadian, I would say, is smart enough. I think we're a pretty switched on culture and a pretty switched on people. I think your average Canadian has a pretty good taste when it comes to comedy. I think your average Canadian also is a hockey fan, and so that's who we made the movie for. And we tried our best to portray in this story and on screen in this movie the wide, full spectrum of emotions that one feels being a part of something like that, and hopefully kids will dig it.
Absolutely, and I think most people would agree with. There's quite the sentiment when I told a few people that I was going to be interviewing you that not very many people involved in the entertainment industry represent their hometown or their country as well as you do,
thanks,
and
man.
As passionately as you do.
Thanks,
definitely, especially Montreal. It seems like you're quite proud to live here, and from our conversation earlier, I think you would say it's the best city in Canada, correct?
Best city in the world.
Best city in the world,
in my opinion. Yeah. I just you know, you got to go away to come back, and I left Montreal to go work in the States. I got a job down in Los Angeles when I was, I think, 18, or a bit younger even, around 18, and you know, and I, like any other teenager in any other city in the world, I had issues. They weren't about Montreal. I made them about Montreal because anybody wants to get away from where they're from at a certain point. You know, I was cooped up in the house with my family. All I could see was just, I couldn't look beyond the horizon of the next building next to ours. I was like, I need to get out. That lasted for about a grand total of a month. Once I was away and got it out of my system, I had nothing but longing for this place. I was raised in a family of fairly patriotic people. You know, my mother's family are military for a few generations now. You know, my mother grew up in an army camp. My granddad left Canada in '39 to liberate Europe, made it back alive, and then re-enlisted to fight the Japanese. And the only reason he didn't go was because they surrendered. And then he was in the very first UN peacekeeping mission in Cyprus. My uncle Ron was a career Mountie. After being a soldier, he would guarded the Queen on her visits here. I have cousins that a cousin of mine that was just in Afghanistan. My cousin was in Bosnia. The point is, I was surrounded by this. I was raised in a family where, you know, we had to love our country because we've served it as long as we have. And then I was also raised in a house where my parents thought Montreal was just the cat's ass. It was better than any place ever. I grew up in a house where my parents would just routinely shit on everywhere that wasn't Montreal, to be perfectly honest. And then I grew up, and I grew up in a neighborhood that used to be way rougher, and you know, and I'm not pro gentrification by any means, and I'm kind of in fact sad that the balls have been cut off of my neighborhood, because I was quite proud to say that I grew up here and didn't turn out fucked. But the point is that I just have love for this. This is my home. My mother lives 4 blocks away. My sister about 7 blocks past that. I grew up walking around this neighborhood. This is where all my favorite restaurants are. This is, no matter what, even if it sucked, it would be my home.
Yeah.
But it doesn't suck. And so it's my home, and it's awesome. And so it's just the best city in the world, and I have the best house in the best neighborhood in the best city in the world, and I just this is where my life is. I'm very proud. I'm trying my best. There's a reason I bought a house here. My lady and I, we want to set up roots here. This is where we want to have kids, and we're Montrealers, man. Nothing can ever change that.
Yeah. Not even a season as disappointing as the Canadians this year.
Oh, Jesus, Murphy. Yeah, no, not even that, because the Impact are coming.
Yes. I saw that you were a soccer fan, that you were involved with Adidas for the World Cup in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I was involved in the World Cup per se, but I was in one of the weirder commercials. Yeah. Well, that was a strange job. That was my manager calling me and being like, hey, want to be in an Adidas commercial? And I was like, yeah, why the fuck not? And then when they told me who else would be in it and what it would be, I said, what? And the reaction when I would tell all my friends is, I could see that some were too polite to vocalize it, others were just going to articulate it right to my face, but it was the same reaction every time. One of my friend, Evan Goldberg, when I told him, he said, hey man, you're really good, and no offense, I think you're good and I love your movies, but aren't there way more famous people than you? Because it's David Beckham, Snoop Dogg, Noel Gallagher, Ian Brown, Franz Beckenbauer, a bunch of others that I'm forget. There's just too many to mention, and all the Star Wars characters, and then me. And so all my friends are like, yeah, how the fuck, why are you here? And I was like, hey man, I'm just hanging on for dear life. I'm just psyched to be here. So I just got a bunch of free shoes and shot for 3 hours with David Beckham and Snoop Dogg, and strangely, one of my prouder moments.
Yeah, outside of the Impact, do you have a favorite soccer team, like over in the European League?
Yeah. And I can't actively follow them as much as I'd like. That's one of the cool things about Twitter, is being able to keep up to date with shit a bit more. But yeah, my sort of real favorite soccer team to end all others is Glasgow Celtic in the Scottish Premier League. And then in England, I would go Liverpool.
Liverpool, nice.
Yeah, well, so those, for a period, Liverpool and Habs connected by Mr. Gillette.
Yeah.
But no, my love for them predates that. But I'm Celtic and the Habs.
That's awesome. So about the Habs, I guess we've got to get to them.
Oh yeah. We
got a nice win at least this afternoon, so no grumpy feelings after that.
No, just apathy. That's what we were talking about. It's the tenor of the conversation won't be crabby, but it was like we won 3-0 handedly.
Yeah.
Like we didn't steal anything. We weren't outshot. We weren't out hustled. There was nothing. It was a 3-0 and a shutout. 4th game in 5 days, as you said. Yeah. And I was like, Meh. M-E-H. Who really cares? Yeah. It's just like the say it ain't so thing. I can't believe that when you wear this, you're never in the basement. Yeah. You die on your feet. Even if you get knocked out in the first round or whatever, the goal is to win. Yeah. I never, and I was fine never being one of the teams that gets Tavares or Sid or something, because I never wanted to be one of those teams that does what it takes to get there. And by the way, there's no guarantee you get out of the friggin' basement. I don't even know why there's a lottery. They might as well just give it to Long Island every year. Like, that's this team. And so it's just this. It's a really. It used to be this. At the beginning, closer to the beginning of the year, I was saying I felt like just a battered wife, knowing they're gonna hurt me, but I can't. What am I gonna leave? I can't say no to this. And now it's not even battered wife. Now it's the point in the fight where I'm not even bothering to throw punches or grab anybody. I've just decided the path of least resistance is to lie flat on my face and wait till they're too tired to kick me anymore. And I guess the draft pick would be the fucking morphine you get at the hospital or whatever. Yeah, but I'm with you, man. I don't think there's that much work that needs to be done in the squad itself. I think the problems we have are sort of systemic managerial problems. I think we need a paradigm shift in the Habs overriding philosophy. I think we need to be aggressive. I think we need to be less tolerant of anything short of complete victory. I just, this is a city of champions. Are the CH representing all Quebecers and representing Canada and all the myriad things that people claim it represents? None of that would be so if we were dog shit for 100 years.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. We gave the world hockey. This is the Stanley Cup's home, and we should conduct ourselves accordingly. All we use our history for is a means of preventing ourselves from expanding. We're suffocated by it instead of being fueled by it. And so the Habs have to start anew in the office and make the handful, sort of 3 or 4 adjustments and enhancements I think that would be needed to be made in the squad.
Where do you do you have any idea where you would go as far as like a managerial or coaching way?
I mean, I would, you know, I always read you guys, all you kids, for that shit. But I would have to, I would want, it's got to be somebody ambitious.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I think that we've taken pragmatism to new lows. You know, I think we've used being sort of pragmatic as an excuse for pussyfooting. You know. And what do I know about what the tenor of the league is? You know, with somebody, a scout once said to me on a plane, he said, there are no hockey trades anymore, there are just money trades. And if that's the case, and in the world, you know, in an era of parity and only money trades, how do I know how easy it is to put the right pieces together? But other teams seem to be able to, and other teams seem to be able to fairly consistently. The who specifically, wow. Well, you know, we were getting into the McGuire debate. I can't make a defensible argument to either side, so that probably tells you that I don't think it's him. You know, I think you did a pretty good job of arguing all the reasons why it might not work. And to me, the most glaring thing that stands out, that comes to mind when it comes to Pierre McGuire, and again, this is just me armchair coach shit, but someone pointed out that, you know, he's really close with a lot of important people in hockey. Why has he never had this job? Or why in all this time, in all these close relationships that he's fostered with Bowman and Lemieux and people that aren't nobody, and Jeff Molson as well, like, why has it taken this long? I don't think that's nothing. You know, and I heard you on Puck Daddy, and you said he'd make an amazing scout, and I think that's probably dead on. But I think you also said that he kind of likes the team too much to be able to be GM. Me, I kind of think we need a bit more of that.
Yeah.
But again, the Habs, we are a team of pendulum swings. We either have rabble-rousing guys that just hard-nosed to the grindstone screaming at people, or we have little, you know, he's
Jacques Martin, his notepad.
Yeah, like you know, it'd be neat to think that I got to assume there's someone who fits both of those things. GM, I don't know that I'd be able to make my hockey knowledge isn't good enough to be able to. Any name I'd be putting out would be just a name that somebody else said. I think the coaching staff, though, I think, as firebrand as he is, Patrick Waugh's record can't be argued with, and he's achieved a fair bit. And as I said to you, I know his style might work better when you're talking with teenagers than it does with fully grown men, but the numbers are the numbers themselves. And the man, I don't need to mention the connection he has to this city and this club, and I got to assume that a coaching staff, you know, led by him, with Larry Robinson at his side, I would think that him and anyone else, I mean, you could do a lot worse than that. Yeah. So that would at least be the paradigm shift coaching wise. Front office, I don't even know how you start.
Well, with Wall, at the very least, it would be fun.
At the very least, we would never. We wouldn't get bored halfway through the game. You know, like there would be no shortage of shit to talk about. And, you know, it'd be like having PK Subban as a coach.
I had one question that a couple people wanted me to ask you, but there are a lot of celebrities that have also said that they were Habs fans. I think Norm Macdonald is a Habs fan, and Vigo, obviously.
Yes.
Do you guys ever have get-togethers and have like Habs summits for the celebrities?
Not as of yet.
No.
These are the celeb Habs fans that I've talked Habs with. Nicholas Campbell, also known as Da Vinci from Da Vinci's Inquest. He is a dyed-in-the-wool Habs fan, and he and I got into it a myriad times. Anakin Slade, he and I, famed Montreal rapper and creator of Habs anthems like Feels Like 93. He and I, I would say the majority of what we do anytime we talk is analyze the Habs. No, I have not gotten my decoder ring for the Habs Celeb Brotherhood. Jack Layton, no, I didn't. There was none of that before he passed on. No, I'm waving the flag, and they know where to find me, because I'm the only one that's in Montreal. Well, and Anakin, he's in Montreal too. So.
Well, don't forget your fiance too.
Oh, and my fiance. Well, you know. Really, Allison's not famous. No, no. My beautiful fiance, the love of my life, Allison Pill, is an incredibly passionate Habs fan. This is a girl who, without any of my urging, and on her own, there was no recommendation that I made, she went and read Ken Dryden's The Game and then the 100 Years of the Habs book, one after the other, on her own in New York, while she was doing her play on Broadway there, and this is a chick that really, really understands the game. You know, we've watched the past 2 years worth of Habs and World Juniors together, and so she watches she watches it by herself on her computer in LA. And this is a girl that really understands the game, and I'm never prouder of her or more in love with her than when my friends are like, Jesus, she really knows her shit. She read the fucking game. I'm like, yep. I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Like, don't I know it? So yeah, and you know, her dad is a Montrealer. So first thing I did, the first time I met her dad was, I knew I had to go to the Bell Center to buy him a Markov jersey. I was like, hey, come bearing gifts. I just wanted to put a hard ceiling on how annoyed with me he could be.
Bought your way in right away.
Right away. Yep. Yeah. Bought my way to her father's heart.
And you're getting married this summer, you said?
Yeah, September 1st in Sutton, Quebec. This big ice wine vineyard. Yeah, it should be crazy. It's a lot of planning. I am a lot of planning. I'm very happy that's all happening. I'm very happy I'm going to be married to her. But wedding, well, you know, a lot of moving parts.
There is.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Jay, and
thank you.
I know you got work to do, so thanks for doing this so much. It was great hanging out with you.
Please.
And you know, you're not a celebrity, you're a guy. You're just a fucking cool guy.
Likewise, Andrew. Thank you. I gotta say, I'm very in awe that Andrew Berkshire himself was here watching the game with me. So, and absolutely anytime, and at some point I will guilt trip your website into allowing me to write something on there.
Hey, you know what? You can write anytime. You just click on the fan post button, and I'll feature it on the front page.
Fucking A.
Just tell me.
You heard it here first.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, bud.